All right. Good morning, everyone. We got a great episode of the T Podcast for you today. We're going to be talking with Travis Gauthier, who is the owner of Zoom Photo Studio in downtown Lafayette. We're going to be talking about the history of the company. They just made 20 years in October in business, so that is a big milestone. And there are several photos throughout the history of the company that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be showing them and discussing it and what the photos mean and the time and place that the photos were taken and the significance of it. And we're also going to be going on tangents, I'm sure, about photography and all that. Because before we went on live,
we'll try to keep it not too technical for people who aren't photographers.
Well, but if you take photos with your phone, it'll be a good thing to listen to because he's a traditional photographer with
somewhat just kind of done almost everything that because of the years that I've been doing it, like 30 years now, I've kind of done almost every type of photography in some ways, like a lot of even back to old traditional processes. And I started on film. Yeah. So, I've been in that transition. In fact, the Zoom Photo Studio era of 20 years is like you're starting with film, like I was about half film when it was started, but a lot of the stuff was really because we were moving into digital. It gives you that opportunity to do that. And I'm of an odd age to be a photographer. I went to the Art Institute of Houston, graduated in 95. And back then there were not a lot of photographers. So there was I'm of an age where there weren't a lot of photographers. So I like to say I was like the young photographer in Lafayette for like a long time. Right. There wasn't a lot of young photographers. And people maybe still think of me that way a little bit, but I'm old now. So, but I've noticed like some of the younger photographers, I'll talk to them and they've got into it, all during digital. Yeah. And in fact, a couple of years ago, somebody was asking me about, a photographer friend was asking me about film and he was like all excited about, this and that. And I was like, yeah, dude, I started in that. But it made me want to go back and do it. So I actually got a little darkroom set up and did it again. And when I hit the 30th anniversary of the day that I shot my first roll, I went around and photographed the same thing on the same film. And did it, and just to kind of see, and some of the stuff was kind of sad because there was a beautiful tree that it had just broken a big limb the year before. So I like to think of also photography as like at the time and place. That's a huge part of in that 100th of a second or 1,000th of a second. That is that photograph, and that's that piece of time. And nowadays on the digital cameras, we see that little exact second or 10th of a second that photo was taken. Yeah. Well, we're going to dive into that in a little bit. But yeah, you're listening to the T. All right. So we are talking with Travis Gauthier, but first, real quick, we're going to be talking about my presenting sponsor, Chase Group Construction. So their website, chasegroupconstruction.com. They are the one point of contact. If you're looking for a builder or anybody to renovate a business, Chase Group, they'll help you with that. They have a great portfolio of businesses. They're a design build firm. So they build all things from medical to popular restaurants to multi-unit shopping center developments. So they really do it all and are great people, local companies. And he told me to keep this short. So I'm going to do that so that he respects your guys' time. Their website, chasegroupconstruction.com. Check them out. All right. And so real quick too, my studio is sponsored in part by Mir Group, a CPA firm. So check them out. And keep that short and sweet. So now we're on to the meat of Zoom Photo Studio. To the meat of the situation here. So are you originally from Lafayette? Yes. Okay. When did you get interested in photography? So I started in photography. The Career Center had a class in Lafayette. It doesn't exist anymore. But I kind of was always maybe thoughtful about photography, but never really did when I was a kid. But when I was a senior in high school, I was like, that sounds interesting. And just kind of took to it like right away when I got into the class. And so the instructor at the time, he's like, he's looked at like some of my first roll and he was like, did you do this before? And I was like, no. And I'm like, he's like, well, not bad. And I was like, okay. And then so he kind of gave me the encouragement to go. And then when I was graduating high school, I was like, everybody graduate high school, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to try to do this. And like I was saying before, it was like the time period of being in film, and there was like photographers were kind of older guys, which is probably my age now, but you wouldn't think of a lot of what photographers are now, which is a lot of young people, And I think that really changed with the advent of digital, which is when I started Zoom. That it made it easier to have a company run by only one or two people that you can process and get, photos out pretty quickly before it was a bigger staff. And so, but since then, I've done almost every genre of photography, and then every, type of photography, which is, I also like to dive into stuff that is just different, you know what I mean? Stuff which is harder to do these days. Back in film, it was like to get something different. Your goal was, I joke about this too, is like your goal was to get a perfect on color, perfect light lit,
all the composition and everything,
all composition on film.
Yeah.
And as soon as we went to digital, you started seeing the filters and what kind of became Instagram now.
Yep.
And that was like, as soon as we got it perfect, we started to want to mess it up again, which is fine because that's kind of where I was.
Well, that's kind of how it feels like with anything. Once you get it to a certain point, all of a sudden new technology comes out that kind of disrupts the whole scene of the whole industry, and then you got to relearn a lot of the stuff.
What we were talking about before, where we're kind of at now, is where we're getting into AI, generated even complete photograph, and really quickly. Mm-hmm. I've been really surprised about how, maybe I wasn't working in that, but like really over the last year, you've seen those AI generated images, and Photoshop has added in, Adobe's added in some technology into Photoshop that extend backgrounds. So folks, if you didn't think that you could trust your eyes before, definitely don't trust them anymore.
No, you're not lying there. So what's crazy is, according to a friend of mine who's into software development and all that, he works for a big company here in Lafayette. AI, the building blocks of AI has been in the process of coming to fruition for like 5, 6, 7 years now, maybe a little longer. But we've actually started seeing the fruits of all the labor that AI programmers and all that stuff were doing in the background. So like, for example, OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT. Last year, probably around October-ish, that's when ChatGPT kind of like came out full blast, and everybody started adopting it as fast as they could to like help them write and come up with stories and whatever. And I think from that point was kind of like the old crap, like AI is here, and it's showing up pretty quick. And then around about the same time, maybe a little bit before ChatGPT, you had all the AI generated art that was starting to come out and it was rough. Like some of the stuff was weird looking. Like you had like some people had like really elongated fingers, and you still kind of have that depending on what AI system you use, or like you'll have like 6 fingers instead of 5, and it's only getting better to the point where now I see AI generated art of people that just describe themselves and where they want to be. And this software, and I think it's Dolly that produces it, and I think that's a OpenAI's sourced backend, and it just creates really solid looking AI artwork. Now, if you want realism, it may struggle with that, but even with some of the realism,
maybe we see that coming as it gets popular in the next, I guess maybe I'm hoping that we'll see that we'll go for 3 or 4 years, 5 years of having stuff really get into being uncanny valley, weird stuff, and people want, I want a real photograph. I want my photograph taken, and there's nothing to really replace the photographer eye. You can put as much technology on, and trust me, Apple has done that as far as what lens selection and lighting and stuff can do. But to have that knowledge of, they're kind of building that into the camera phones, but to have that knowledge of having that person, but then also to make that person smile, to get a real smile, to get, and when you're talking about portrait photography, to have an interaction. And that's a lot of some of what I do when I work in that portrait area, is a lot of making that person feel comfortable, making them, make sure they're sitting right, the posture. Some of that stuff can be redone, but is it really, is it really going to replace that? And I don't really think so. I think you'll have people who will want, I want a real photograph. You know what I mean? And I think you'll get into advertising that'll be like, and it may be that higher end advertising that'll say, no, we don't want an AI image like everybody else has. And some people like, we don't want a camera phone image, but we want an actual photograph. We want an actual photograph of our product. Yeah. And some of that stuff. And so I think it'll be this is kind of my weird prediction, is that it'll be kind of the same thing that happened with digital, where once everybody could see that image on the back of the screen, it changed the game because you could fix stuff on the spot.
Oh, right away. Yeah.
Whereas
you don't need to have it developed or anything.
Yeah. Before we had to know how to do it before. I was president of the Photo Guild in Lafayette in 2010. And one of the first things that I did was we did a shootout where everybody kind of goes downtown and just takes a model and goes shoot.
Oh, yeah. So not like okay.
Yeah, no, shoot it. But what I did was I said, okay, everybody come here. And we put a piece of gaffer's tape on the back of their cameras. Oh. And they were freaking out. They were like, what? I was like, do it right. Do it.
Through the viewfinder.
Use your mind first. Like set up the photo, set up your exposure in your mind, which is you have to pre-visualize stuff. And a lot of what photography is, even where photography is going now, is pre-visualizing what you want. And you still want to be the one in control, even when you get into digital and AI. Even you want to be the one to tell that computer what to do, to tell that camera what to do. I've had people say, "Oh, you must have a great camera." I was like, I taught it everything it knows.
Yeah.
I really hate shooting on program or on automatic. I want to tell that camera what to do. Yeah. In fact, it's harder for me to do that. So you shoot
manual.
Absolutely, 100%. And so occasionally I'll switch when it's something that I have to shoot really quickly. But my camera's on manual and I'm telling it what to do. And in fact, it's easier for me to do that than to put it on automatic and then have to get around what it's going to do. You know what I mean? I'd rather tell it what to do.
So you mentioned being in the era that we are with AI, doing photography and all that, and how people are going to want a real image or a real...
I think they still do.
Yeah, right. But like right now, it's fun. AI is fun. It's kind of in a gimmicky sense.
Sure.
Will it be used in commercial applications for the foreseeable future? I think so. But going to that point of people wanting authentic versus AI, I think I equate it to when we went from analog or like film to digital, and Photoshop became really popular. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden, people were photoshopping people's pimples away. People were photoshopping wrinkles away.
I do that every day.
Right. It's still a thing, but in commercial sense, in an optics of body dysmorphia and self-esteem. So companies like American Eagle and like some of these bigger companies that sell clothing to young people and like they may have self-esteem issues, they are no longer photoshopping like cellulite off of booties, whether it be a little bit or a lot. You know, they're showing real bodies in their clothing because that's how people can relate and say, I can see myself in that.
I think maybe, you're right, that it's kind of, in some ways, in some circles, it's become morally objectionable to do that. To really Photoshop, isn't there a subreddit called girls, it's like something of Instagram, and it's the real photo versus the retouched photo.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And there's a huge, and it's right. I mean, it is right to say, well, that person, the body is dysmorphia and stuff. It becomes a moral question at that point. Like, do we do that? And on my retouching, I do hold back a little bit, especially for men, because I think it makes men look weird. You really smooth them over.
Yeah.
And guys also, like, you want to have a little gruffness,
typically most men have some roughness, and if they're really clean, chances are.
And most men are fine with showing their age.
Yeah.
And so and I'll consult with sometimes with, you know, when I'm taking it, especially a headshot. It's an individual headshot. I'll show them on the screen, and they're like, "Oh, can you make me look young? Can you do this?" I was like, "I'll do that, but I'm not going to do it until I sort of refuse in some ways into doing it where it makes it look weird, because you can make people look really waxy, really,
Right.
And so even I hate photos of myself. Right now I'm on camera and it's weird, but like just a little tuck, just a little, but you basically don't want to do stuff where that it's not that person. Like you said with pimples, we do pimples because
nobody wants that.
It's the person on their best day.
Yeah.
You know,
correct.
Whereas when you're taking a photo, it probably is not their best day. You might have a pimple. So we want to have that on their best day. So like a little under eye, little pimples, little like, oh, I don't like that. My hair, can you take this one hair out? I do the general stuff, but I really don't, in my work, really get into like really scrubbing stuff.
Okay.
I think it looks weird.
Yeah. So I like how we went straight into the tangent of talking about photography and, how everything changes.
Well, that's where the future's going. We can talk about the past.
And so before we went on, and we're gonna dive into some of the history of your company, of course, and then we're gonna get into some photos in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we were talking before we went live, and you asked me what camera do I use, and I pointed to my phone, and then you were like,
"My heart."
Yeah. And then I think
because your stuff is good. I mean, it looks good. We're kind of in some ways in some of the same industries where you're out, doing promotional and advertising and for new businesses. Which is great. I would follow it a lot.
I appreciate that. So, and I used to have a DSLR back in 2008.
Yeah.
I bought a Nikon D60, I think it was.
Yeah.
And this is literally right before live view on the camera. I had the viewfinder and I had to know what I was shooting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I held down the shutter. Like if I didn't know what I was doing, I just held down the shutter and I picked the best one.
Remember that. We call it spray and pray.
That's what I did. I sprayed and prayed. And what I was shooting, though, I really wasn't shooting people. But today, with camera phones and the progression that we've gotten, like over the past 13, 14 years, like 14 to 10 years ago in that range, you would not have used a camera phone to take a photo of anybody. Like, and if you did,
I still wouldn't.
Well,
I mean, if I'm sharing it, generally or something.
But like,
not.
Back then, the color was off. It was washed out. It was very blurry because the pixel range was super small. But today, like some phones have, I'm quoting it, 48 megapixel cameras. It's
the final
it's
output
inflated.
Is 40,
yeah. But like I'll take a photo of something, a product or whatever have you, and I'll use the portrait mode or the cinematic mode with video, and about 80% it gets it to the point where it's the average person can't tell the difference
on a screen.
On a screen.
You and I were talking before about when I'm typically shooting, and I kind of know that a lot of what 90% of the image we see more images today, like in the last 20 years, than we consume so many images per day.
Yeah,
probably 1,000 times more than we did 20 years before.
We consume more video today than we ever have either.
I watch YouTube all day, but you used to be where you would drive down the street, you'd see a billboard, you'd see a poster, you'd see some photo on somebody's wall, you would see a portrait on your desk, but that was it. That was it. But now with social media and with all the other stuff, you're consuming so much visual information. I think it's some ways good, some ways not good, but that's where, as a photographer, you want to have that image that looks professional, that looks finished, and have that pop into the scene when you're seeing it. And that's the way you get attention. It's the way you get away from the noise of all the stream, the Instagram, and and you'll know when every third photo on Instagram, that's an ad.
Oh, all of them, yeah. I know.
Every third, I think it's every third or fourth is an ad. And you'll notice because that photo looks better, because that photo was professionally finished.
Yeah.
But whereas the source comes from is a whole different ball of wax, like that's where when I shoot film, but I scan it. and then I'll finish it in the computer. But it really does have a different look. One of the most surprising things I was saying that a few years ago, I had a friend that said I wanted to get into film, and I was like, you know what? I haven't done it in a while. I'm gonna do it. What I was surprised at is how different it did look. How different that black and white film did look from just changing it to black and white. Not to say better or worse, but it really did. And then recently I was doing a portrait session and I broke out a couple of film cameras, and the model was like, these look more timeless than the ones we did digitally, because there's just something about them that have that timeless look.
Yeah, and it's like there's like a certain grain that these cameras have.
I like grain. I don't know if people don't like grain, but I like grain.
But like when you say, hey, add some grain, people usually do like full grain or no grain. It's like not like subtle grain.
Even the grain you can add in, digital products doesn't really replicate what grain was actually doing in film. It just kind of, it puts a sheen over it, but it doesn't really look like it. That's why, like, when you watch an old movie, I mean, there's several reasons to do it. I mean, nostalgia, whatever, but there's, it's a whole different feel. It's not better or worse in my eyes. It's just different. And one of the things that I broke out was my old 4x5 camera, old view camera, which is, you put the hood on and shoot that. Now,
Geez, you have one of those?
Oh, yeah.
That's
I got
nice.
a couple of them. But
looks like an accordion, right?
it's an accordion. Well, the reality is that it's a lens and a board. Board. So you're viewing it on the ground glass. You have the lens here, and there's nothing. The shutter is mechanical. There's no battery. There's nothing. So
That's
you're bringing
cool.
it out.
Yeah.
And so it's just a box. It's a light side box and a lens, and that's it, and a shutter in the lens. So when you're viewing that, but the interesting thing about that is that it's a 4x5 negative. I mean, the negative is 4x5 inches, and there's still nothing that really brings that amount of detail. In fact, I've noticed that when I was getting into scanning, we had scanners in '95 that were better than scanners that are today, because theoretically you really kind of don't need them anymore. And that's why I'd love to get my hands on like an old scanner, like one of those old film scanners that they were just stupendous, So they do still exist, but you're getting into high stuff. But I know that there's certain, even when you're doing, especially when you're doing macro stuff, like Stuller has 2 staff photographers, and they do, it's a digital camera that is kind of built on that same lens and platform.
Cool stuff, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I've kind of done sort of.
You've done a lot.
A lot of stuff.
And I love that you have one of those old cameras too.
You gotta come visit and I'll show you.
I'm gonna have to check it out. So we're at about 23 minutes.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and get my sponsors mentioned here. And if you're seeing a thumbs up on the screen, I don't know. I just saw it do it. But if you do see the thumbs up on the screen, I don't know what it's doing. It is what it is. All right. So our next sponsor
Software likes me.
is Music Academy of Acadiana. So if you want to unleash musical potential, if you even think you have potential, even if you don't think you do, you might have some potential that you are not seeing in yourself. The Music Academy of Acadiana can help you bring that out. They teach students of all ages and styles. They teach piano, guitar, voice, drum, violin, saxophone. If you want to learn audio production, you want to help make music sound better, they can do that. They have instructors. Some really great instructors. It's founded by Tim Benson, a UL Lafayette music school graduate, who is also in a emo cover band called Criers. So that's cool. Nationally recognized and have been voted top music school since 2016. So check them out. Their website is musicacademyacadiana.com, and their goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, and to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. So check out their website. It's on screen, musicacademyacadiana.com. And then we got EPS, or Electronic Protection Systems. So Electronic Protection Systems, they sell smart home security systems and whole home water systems. So short and sweet. We moved into a house last year, didn't have our security system set up yet with another company. Well, EPS shows up and said, hey, who's your security system with? And I'm like, oh, it's with so-and-so. And they were like, oh yeah, look, we're local, we're cheaper. I'm like, you already spoke my language 2 times. So I went ahead and said, look, I'll switch. What do we got to do? So they have 0 down payments, no out-of-pocket expenses for the equipment. What's really cool too is a lot of your national security systems, their cameras only pick up motion only when the motion is applied. So like if you want to look back on video, you can't scrub video like you can with EPS's system. So like EPS will record 2 weeks out. So like your national companies or like even your Ring cameras, it only detect the motion and save that 30-second clip or whatever. So if you want to see what happens before that 30 seconds, you can't. It just doesn't save it. But EPS, every camera is connected to a hard drive that you have in your home. And so you can just access it online. You can scrub through 2 weeks of video, which is really cool. I like that because sometimes there's things that my cameras don't necessarily see or pick up in motion, but I see it in the corner of the video and I'm like, I can, like, if my neighbor has something stolen off their patio and their cameras didn't catch it, but mine did, I just like, hey, check it out. Really cool. And also whole home water systems, EPS came up to me about 6 months later after they put in the security system and they were like, hey, do you want to do like a free water test? And I'm like, oh, no, my water's fine. But they said, you live in an area that has not the greatest water. I'm like, okay, well, sure. Let's see what the water looks like. And it was bad. It was majority bad. Like, it's not the worst, but it was like bad enough for me. I was like, I don't want to drink that. So whole home water system, they came, installed it. Water tastes great, smells better. It's good for your washer and dryer. Not dryers. Actually, your dryer, mine has a steamer, so weird. It's good for your appliances. Let's just put it that way. So if you want to check them out, eps-online.com, or I have this fancy little referral link there. It's link.developinglafayette.com/EPS. If you use that link, we will get a little kickback, and we love some little kickbacks. So yeah, that is our sponsors, and we appreciate them. Okay, so let's set up my computer screen here to check out some photos. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up a shared screen.
I think you can space bar. You had it on one.
All right.
You might have to do another thing.
Boom. Boom. Okay. And sorry, sponsors, I'm going to have to move your logos for now. Okay, so you said hit spacebar?
I think so.
All right.
Maybe L. Let's see. Click one.
Figuring this out live.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about this photo.
Is it on? Okay.
Yep.
This I actually did when I started the studio. I did some specific images that were going to be promotional images.
Yeah.
And they were going to be something that would be eye catching, like I was talking before. So this is like just a simple kind of like, it's sort of a product shot in some ways, but it's just a little robot that is a little toy robot, and it kind of gives that. I don't know. I love the feel of it. Everybody kind of loved that little robot.
Yeah.
And it was actually my dad's a toy that I still have. And I just thought it was just like, to me, a promotional image for a photographer is all about just catching, like, it's not necessarily a theme or anything else. It's just like, oh, this is an interesting image. It just like catches your eye, you know?
Okay. So why does just looking at this picture, why does the red part look blurry and the blue part looks really sharp?
I don't remember what I did.
You don't. It looks 20
cool.
Years
ago, man. Come on.
It looks cool.
No, it looks cool. To me, like you want to have your eye go to the face.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of photo critiques when I was in school, but also like when we did the photo guild, like I was talking about. And the idea in a photograph, you want your eye to go to one point. Mm-hmm. When you first look at a photograph, you want the viewer's eye to go to one point.
Yep.
And then then give them the motivation to move your eye around the image. So that's the idea. So like you want to go into the little face, and then you go around the side, and you say, oh, that side's kind of blurry, and it's kind of got a little bit of motion. I think I actually did a little motion blur in it.
Okay.
So just but it once again, you asked about it. So
yeah, I love it. I mean, the first thing I look at, of course, is like the eyes and the forehead of the robot. Like that's the first part I go to.
Self-assignment promo image.
Yeah. All right. So
what we got next?
Do I hit spacebar or do I hit like the
arrow? Hit next that way. Arrow. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This is during one of my first clients who I actually had right before I started in Zoom was CA Guitars, which was a composite guitar company.
Okay.
And one of their featured artists was Dale Menard, who's a fun guy, by the way. One of those things also, like just doing this for years, I just get to meet so many people just because I photograph them. And you want to kind of have, engagement with them.
Yeah.
This was actually at Festival International, and there's something about that image I still love, just the composition and the sun is coming right in the right angle. It's just one of those things that.
And I love the detail in his skin, the rawness.
And that was shot on film.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said shot on film, huh?
That was shot on film.
Wow. So what year was this? Do you remember?
That was 2002.
2002?
Yeah, CA Guitars. I don't know if y'all remember Festival International didn't have all their stages. It was the years they were building.
Man, I moved here in 2010, so
when they built the 2 stages, there was a whole year where they didn't have them at the festival were at those same locations, but there was a whole year where it was all different places because they were building the stages.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah. And that one's actually kind of right down it was a stage kind of right down, I think, Congress. But it just the sun was coming right on him.
No, it looks really good. I love the composition
Once
of
again, you're pulled to the face. And we're also, we're pulled to faces because we're humans and we recognize faces. That's the first thing we look at. And then we look at brighter spots and red spots. Like I'm looking at your red shirt. Probably if people would look at our image on our video there, their eyes are going to go to your red shirt first.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Something about red and about the brightest spot.
That's kind of like that's why pimples are so bad. Everybody just gravitates straight to the pimple. Like
I actually don't let. I'd rather people not wear red in headshots.
Okay.
Because it distracts from their face.
Wow.
Because your eyes will go to the shirt first.
Just look at my shirt. It's all okay.
Look at Ben's face.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so next photo, really cool up close shot. Yeah,
that's another CA guitar shot. And at the time, I was doing all their stuff, and then they kind of they still actually exist, but they were actually founded in Lafayette, so it was kind of cool to work with.
Yeah, that is really cool.
And Sonny Landreth. This would have been 2004 or 2003, I believe. Probably one of the first ones that we did, and I think this was for a promo for the road we're on. And since then, I've actually done a lot with Sonny. I've a lot of his last couple of album covers I did for his live one and for his last thing. And
nice.
But that's digital, so that's really early digital. He's a good guy. He's really cool to work with, and that was a fun shoot. I think that was in El Cido's.
Yeah, I like it. And so this is obviously digital cameras shoot in color.
Right. Well, one of the things that we did with the early digital cameras, they would be fine for like we were talking about online or for which wasn't really existing at the time as much. Not everybody was online. But the color in that was probably the last thing that they really got was the light sensitivity and then the color balance. It always looked a little weird. It looked kind of like video initially. But we found that early on, you could shoot digital and then convert it to black and white.
Yeah.
And so like our hybrid era was also like we would shoot like for weddings, like all the standard color stuff was shot on film. And then we would shoot all the black and white kind of intimate stuff on digital. And
interesting.
That was kind of our hybrid era and so a lot of stuff that we were shooting for that, it would have been black and white.
Yeah.
We would change black and white.
Short side tangent about black and white photography, videography, true black and white. So, and I don't know if anybody else has had these thoughts. This is just something that my wife and I have discussed a couple of times because every New Year's she loves to watch The Twilight Zone.
Yep.
Twilight Zone is shot on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, true black and white film.
Actually, there's some episodes, if I can't tell you what era, but if you notice, there's a few episodes that they have a little weird bloom to them, and you'll see some of that, and that has actually to do with how it was stored. But they were shot on an early sort of video system that I'm not sure. You're killing me because I should know this, but, but it's either the way they were stored or the way they were shot, and I think it was on an early video system. But it was also the way they were stored, and they'll have like a weird bloom. If you look at like some from the 60s, some newscasts, and you'll see like in the highlights we'll go to like a weird black, like a rear, like a sun or like a bright light will kind of turn black or kind of look solarized. That's you can tell that was shot on an early video system.
Well, the reason why I mention it is because...
But yeah, they were mostly filmed and transferred.
So some of these Twilight episodes look amazing.
Yeah.
Like on a 4K screen,
Yeah.
they look so nice and sharp. And I know film can keep its integrity because digital, there is some limitations, but I'm always amazed on how sharp these black and white films look from like years and years ago. And I'm like, dang, like,
you know, I'm a big movie buff too. So like we're getting into the 4K era. The 4K, like a 4K presentation is finally able to present what we would have on 35 millimeter film. All the data and the detail that is actually exists in that. So we actually have an era of film that was like, let's say the last 20 years from like early 2000s until, till now, where we're shooting on 4K or finishing on 4K. But a lot of stuff isn't finished on 4K. A lot of stuff is, especially special effects movies, because they got to spend so much money. Now I know that there are some, like the recent Star Wars movies were finished on 4K, which is kind of crazy to think that they were generating some of that imaging. But a lot of that imaging could only be generated at 2K. But video and digital video and digital cameras, there's a little bit of a gap because, like I was saying with this, like it was a little bit of a limitation at the time. And so you'll have like almost a degradation of that era because the film was better in some ways. And also the idea of going back to film and restoring them. Even today, when we get into some of future photos, I was going back through my archives and stuff that I shot in RAW. Today's Photoshop can bring out more than when I was doing it. So I actually kind of remastered some of these that we're seeing today.
That's cool.
So I was able to like look at it, and say, well, not that I'm changing what I would have done, but I couldn't do it then.
Yeah.
There's more sliders. Let's put it that way.
More sliders.
There's
definitely more sliders now.
Yeah. But stuff that's shot on film. This is kind of cool. So one of the interesting things is when I started shooting when I started Zoom was that the Independent opened like the same week down the street.
Mm-hmm. And the newspaper. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I knew some of them from before a little bit. And so early on, I started shooting a little bit with them. And so this is a picture of caviar. Yeah. And so the one thing with food photography is that you want to make it look appetizing.
That is true.
And caviar. And one of the other ones was shrimp. Shrimp and oysters, like seafood, is really hard to get looking like appetizing.
Yeah, because I don't like it at all. So if I don't eat seafood, I know that's weird. Look, I'll eat mahi-mahi.
Yeah.
I tried crawfish. I have eaten crawfish pistolettes and have not felt.
As long as you don't put tomatoes in your gumbo.
No, no tomatoes in the gumbo. But I grew up around crawfish boils and all that. But yeah, don't eat seafood.
And a lot of times, and another thing I use this particular photo as an example of, is that it's kind of knowing how to light stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily. That's why a lot of people talk about natural light photography. Knowing how to light stuff doesn't matter if it's in the studio or if it's outside. If it's good light, is good light. And that's why a lot of photographers that could see it right away on the back, they were just going with it and kind of going. But to me, I still mold and shape the light like I want it to shape. That's shot outside on a piece of foam core.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would have.
Like a studio shot.
Yeah, I thought you would have set up a studio on that one.
No, okay. That was actually on location, I think, at Joey's.
That is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So this is a wedding image from. So we're kind of getting into some of the era where we have some wedding stuff. Where when I first started the studio, it was kind of like shooting anything, and I really kind of still do. But one of the industries that kind of picked up on the style that I was shooting was weddings. So for a while there. One of the many things that I was doing, and I was young enough to kind of be on the feet that long, but one of the things that I got really kind of good at and really did a lot of was weddings. So that was actually in one of the first years, and that was an interesting wedding. It was in the cathedral in New Orleans, which was the first time ever doing that. Yeah. And then they second line down to their venue in the quarter. So really a hustle and really one of those things where you better be ready to shoot and get those images. Because this bride, if she's doing a second line, she wants that image.
Oh yeah.
You better have that image.
Oh yeah. So speaking of weddings,
skip through and we'll probably see some more as we go through.
Okay. So, nice shot.
So another thing is that bringing into what I was, traditionally trained, but also bringing in some of the other types of to me, I was looking for something different. You know what I mean? So this is just, and if it's good, it's good. You know what I mean? So this is one of my early favorite images, just because it's kind of just different. Same bride, but completely different.
Yeah,
image.
Totally different shot.
That's a fun story. That was right on the side of the studio. It looks like it's a wedding day photo, but it was actually during the bridal. This guy came up with his car. It was like, hey, can we use your car?
So if you're listening on like an audio only version of this podcast, I'm sorry. There's a lot of photos that we're going to be talking about. So just kind of
video after the fact.
Yeah.
If you notice, it's the same bouquet, but it still looks good in black and white.
Yeah, it
which
still looks
hard
good.
to do.
Right.
So their wedding era. One of the other things that I got known, I think this might have been one of the first times I did it. So to do this,
did you have to lay on your back?
I'm laying on my back on the ground, and then I had a fisheye. So that one might not be the fisheye, but I had a fisheye, and so we get all the bridesmaids to kind of come above and like circle around, and it would have this whole circle of girls. And so I had this up in the studio when I would do wedding consultations, and they're like, "Oh my God, I want you to do that photo." I'm like. And so, but then after a few years, after I started getting older, it was like, oh God, you get on my back, laid down.
You got to get one of those little roller boards.
Yeah, I do.
Start sliding around.
Yeah,
so
getting up is the problem.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's super fun shot.
So whenever you're going to introduce photography like this, like certain shots that are creative and fun, do they, obviously your clients would obviously trust you, but like, do you ever get that like, why does he want to do that? Like, that's weird. Like, lay on your back.
Okay, so the bride knew this. The bride wanted this.
Oh, okay,
and the bride, probably requested it, or later brides did. And to do it, I was like, okay, like I'd tell it, I wouldn't announce it, but they would say, oh, weird, but then like the guests were like, what the hell is that photographer doing? And but
he's laying on his back with the camera. And what are you doing?
And then when they would see it, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool!"
Yeah. So the photo is amazing in the way it looks, but knowing how you get the photo, that's the part that's like, wow.
And that's also lit. That's not natural light.
Oh wow, yeah, because I can kind of see a light source in the corner.
My light source, and then my light source on camera, probably.
Nice. Yeah, cool shot.
So this one, going back into the editorial era, genre. I won the Louisiana Press Association Award for feature photo for this in 2005.
Really?
Spent the night on a houseboat in the basin with, and that's actually the writer that. But I'm right over his shoulder. It just kind of gives the whole feel of the thing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was, So we ended up winning a state award on that.
Yeah, so the only I think it's a great photo. You know what I think would have been interesting, and I don't know if you would have been able to change the what?
I actually have a fish.
Oh no, the horizon. You can see color. The sun, but it looks a little blown out.
And once again, that's limitations of the era, where nowadays you would have
HDR
or
and all
HDR that you would kind of bring in some of that. And I balance in that too, but I mean, you do get a lot more colors, a lot more. Stuff in digital, but
I know. I mean,
I'm not taking a film camera out on a
right.
At the time, in fact, and at that point, it was all film. So this is Kelly Guidry, another image that was for media, but I ended up using it as a promotional image. It's just one of those striking images that people just kind of. And once again, put myself in a little bit of a danger.
Yeah. I mean, sparks flying right at you.
You can get away with. There's ways to do that. I have sometimes I'll use a little piece of glass and I'm behind. But.
So, did you have to? I mean, obviously sparks fly pretty quick, but did you have to put a shutter speed on it?
To get a little spark shower, you want them to be blurry, but not too blurry.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a balance as to.
It's like,
and it all depends what metal they're hitting. Right.
I
don't know if y'all know Kelly Guidry. That's Kelly Guidry. He's a artist who's still doing. They have Pink Alligator Gallery in Burbridge. That's him. That's early. So that's like 2005, I think,
Nice.
2004. But I always thought, once again, just striking photo. It ended up on a push card.
Yep.
Back in the bridal era.
Is that the same girl?
No, different girl. Back in the bridal era. And once again, if we talk about lighting on this one, I'm not lighting her, but I'm lighting her with moving in cards and moving in fill. But once again, it just kind of, one of those things. Sometimes I'll know when I'm going into editing, I'll find the photo and I'll be like, that's the one. But a lot of times when you're shooting, this is like before the wedding, I got her mom's house. So a lot of times you'll know it right away. With me, when I see a shot on the back of the camera or like I'm seeing it through the thing, I'm like, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is going to be. So once again, it just was one of those kind of.
And where are we at on timeline? Like what year was this roughly?
That would have been probably 2006, 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're making our way up.
We're making our way up. And then so this is for Entergy Calendar. This was where we really get into doing more of that industrial stuff and going out and learning. It's like, once again, I'm dealing with brides and moms.
Yeah.
And then I'm dealing with these guys.
I know.
so it's so many different personalities to kind of work with. These guys were good, but they of course, some of them like, I don't want to be in photos. But no, they were great, and I just kind of liked it, and it became one of those promo things. It was it really shows in action, which you want to kind of do in some of that industrial stuff with people in it. You want to show them doing their job and showing what they're doing, and that's not always easy because sometimes once again, like they have the helmets on, so to get light underneath there, I'm lighting them.
Yeah, and then their papers probably have a little bit of light coming off of it.
That's probably the next generation of camera, yeah.
Yeah. All right, and so this one, what is this?
And once again, music photos.
Yeah.
Music, I just love shooting music, and this is, once again, looking for something different, looking for something just completely different. So there's a company that makes a bendable lens.
Okay.
And so that's what's using on that, and I think it just kind of works for this photo.
Yeah, so interesting. I guess my only thing is like if his face could be a little bit sharper. Yeah. But I think it's a cool looking photo. I've seen the lenses that can bend, and is it the kinds that can do the?
They work cool in video too.
What's the photography, the style of photography that makes large items look like toys? Is that the kind of lens? No, not my. It's where you have like. You have a blur.
Force perspective.
Maybe it's like the blur on the bottom and the top, and that center, it's in focus, so it makes everything look tiny.
What you're talking about is doing.
I'm trying to think of the name of it.
Short depth of field.
Yeah.
So you're using a real short depth of. This is also short, but it's also bending. But you'll have a short depth of field, whereas like, I don't know, can they see this?
Yeah.
The bottle's in camera, and then so like maybe even like this right here is in focus, but this is not.
Yep.
But then one of the other things we were talking about view camera before, where you can actually change where that lands in view camera.
That's so
Once
cool.
again, everything's manual. You can move the lens, you can move the plane of focus. Getting into kind of event photography, this is the first Rio ball. This is the first Rio Queen and King, and they're up on a float at the ball. And
so this is the first.
This is the first Rio ball.
Wow.
And I'm on the ground, but I'm able to get a camera up. And I'm not going to give away that trick, but but I'm able to get. And I was like, look up, and got a camera shooting right down and got the whole environment. But that was the first Rio ball, and then they still actually do those carts. I'm working with Rio again the last few years, and they're doing those carts where I don't know, have you been to Rio ball? They actually parade, and a lot of the crews do that where they parade around. And one of the challenges that we've had in the last few years is we were looking up at them, and so it's hard to get like
a good shot,
besides being up. So one of the things I changed in the last year was to kind of be at their level and find that shot where they're riding around and getting that interaction.
Oh, nice.
Going back to what I did
more
in
industrial,
So industrial 2006. I just think it's once again that kind of thing. When you have a person in it, you want to show them doing what they do, and it's not necessarily, natural light. He's being lit. So I think this was like for a safety thing. So it's like if he's doing that, you want to show him being safe. That's the other thing when in industrial photography, knowing some of the PPE requirements, because if I'm photographing them. If it's going to be used, the company will definitely want, make sure that they have the proper stuff on. And so I think he's doing
because
electrical. So he's got gloves and
you want to make OSHA.
harness. Yeah.
Make sure OSHA is not coming in hot.
Speaking of harness, I think the one coming up here, there's one coming up here. It's another promotional image. It's kind of one of those, probably the sequel to the robot.
Yeah, looks like it.
He lost his foot and he's crazy. It's just one of those things that I got
Cool.
an idea for. This is in a spray booth for a national company. It was pretty early on. That one's actually going backwards, so that's probably about 2004.
Okay. 008.
This was the first, I believe that was the first 008 magazine cover, and we did a fashion spread for them.
It looks like rough. It looks rough because like the design of it's very basic.
It was the first one.
Yeah, I tell you, the first iteration for sure.
Yeah.
But like the picture is good, but like the styling of the magazine cover, I can tell it's like, you know, I guess it wasn't sure where they were going with it.
Yeah, you get the basis of it, and then it's definitely changed since then. But also, you remember this is 2006, 2000.
Yeah,
what does it
2006
say?
cover.
So you got to figure styles have changed since then too.
Definitely.
So
wow.
you would probably leave it floating. Once again, into the wedding era, some people that know a lot of people, you know, it's fun because I see them.
Was this at Vermilionville?
That's
maybe
Acadian Village.
Okay, Acadian Village.
And to getting those shots coming back down the aisle, to me, the hardest part of the wedding is coming in and coming out because you can't repeat that, which I know sometimes you kind of have to fudge it back, but you know, you're not going to get that same expression. You're not going to get that.
No.
That's the most nervous part of the wedding for me is when that bride's coming down that aisle.
So
otherwise, I'm good. And then it's funny, it's like a Catholic wedding, like I can do all day long. Some of the harder weddings are like just outside kind of nonchalant weddings because you don't know if you have an aisle. You don't know if you can run around the other side. You don't know if you can come. So you're really getting the lay of the land. But if it's a Catholic wedding, I know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. It's all pretty set.
It's all pretty set.
So whenever I had my DSLR, my Nikon D60, I wanted to get into wedding photography so bad. And I say wedding photography, I was just trying to figure out how to make money with my camera. I was like, what am I going to do?
This is my, I was going to say this later, but like, I don't turn out anything. It's very rarely, even today, where I'll say no. Now, sometimes I'll say, you know, this is the challenges in that, this is the cost in that, but I just don't say no. It's one of those things, and then maybe I just like to do it. Because to me, it's still photography, it's still work.
You know? Don't say no.
I don't say no.
Okay, so
never.
Whether you're scared or not, you just go for it. Okay. Well, so wedding photography.
Sometimes it's like, how much is it going to cost to do that?
Right. Well, so getting into me wanting to try this, I was nervous because I had read some horror stories of, you know, photographers getting sued and all that.
Not get sued, but yeah.
But yeah, I was like, dude. And then knowing that if you miss that moment, and then I thought to myself, I don't trust myself enough to know if I am capable of getting that moment without having to say, hey, can we redo it? Because I know there's no redo. Like you can redo, but there's no good redo.
Right.
Like you can't get the same, like you said, expressions,
I've run into circumstances where equipment fail, not during that, thankfully, knock on wood. But I've run into circumstances where stuff would go wrong. And that's really in wedding stuff. Like that's and even in event stuff, like it's happening, it's going. So like you got to keep going. You got to show the confidence in doing that. And it's, once again, I can tell you how to shoot a wedding. I can tell you everything that I've known for 30 years of shooting a wedding. But it's knowing if something goes wrong. It's not if everything's going right. It's if something goes wrong with your equipment or with the wedding, or the wedding doesn't happen, which has happened to me before.
No,
but it's if something goes wrong. Like what do you do? So I still do a few weddings, but I had my years in it, and I'm kind of letting some of the young people do it, but I'll still do them if somebody. I've done a few in the last couple of years, but. It's one of those things that's really sort of a young person's game, but I still enjoy doing the ones that I do. And I maybe, like I said, I hate to say no, but I haven't turned anything down.
Crazy. I'm just imagining like this little boy in the corner.
So this is probably 6 years ago. This is how many years ago? What would we say, 2006?
Yeah.
So they're all, I have, strangely enough, the weirdest thing when time going by is I remember I have a few where I've shot babies, and those babies are like graduating high school now.
Oh yeah,
They're going to college.
Trust me.
So it's like, oh.
So it's funny. I shot a family member's newborn. I say newborn, like it was within the first year of life, and
It's a newborn.
Yeah, essentially. But like whenever I think of newborn, like I think of the crinkly skin, like
Really
looking like an alien.
Really newborn.
Yeah, newborn. But like in the first year of birth or infancy, I shot a family member's baby, and this family member ultimately didn't pay me and bailed out. But the photos looked really good, and I remember
You gave him the photos?
No. I kept the photos.
There you go.
So the photos look really good, and now there was like a couple of years back now, but I remember meeting that young girl that was a baby that I shot, and she was like almost a teenager. I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. And so now I'm pretty sure she's getting close to graduating high school, and to know that, like that's time being the animal that time is.
Right.
Oh, this is a pretty shot.
Bridal shot.
Yeah.
Once again, it's just one of those that kind of worked.
Such a good shot. Like, I love the trees, and she's like in like perfect focus. Like the lighting looks good. I like that a lot.
Once again, she's being lit.
Yeah, but it looks really good. I like it.
Getting kind of headshot, like fashionly, and just something about this photo, I still use it as a headshot example. There's just something about his posture and his lighting, and it's a little bit different lighting than I would do, but it just kind of works.
Yeah, interesting.
Once again, in the era of brides, when at this point I was kind of doing a little bit more of a traditional style, kind of scraping in all the weddings.
Yeah, I see that.
Getting the moms that want the traditional style, want the little bit older, and I can do it. A lot of times, the newer photographers at this time, they could do the action-y shots like we saw, but they couldn't do this. They didn't know the lighting. And then photography is still lighting. It's still the same kind of thing. So
that'll never change.
Once again, still good, but
yeah, good shot.
Wedding era. So we were talking about dangerous and harnesses and whatnot. So this, I'm in the middle of this. I'm up in the top of that.
Looks like a crane.
Yeah, I'm on a crane. I'm on the crane. So I'm up in the middle of that building, and that's a huge engine. And so to show that whole, the whole situation. So
yeah,
I was and probably still am a little bit scared of heights, scared of open heights. But as long as there's something around.
So I used to probably around this time. Like, what year was this? Probably 2005,
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in late 2006, early 2007, give or take, I was working in Lake Charles in the plants as a crane technician apprentice. And these overhead cranes right here is
so it's a crane. Yeah.
I knew it was a crane right away because I saw the railing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, okay, it brought me back because I used to work in these on these cranes over these engines, these big Caterpillar engines.
Right.
And I'm like, first of all, if they're running, they're so noisy.
Yeah. You gotta have ear protection.
But like, I don't know, just in that era, I was working on cranes, and to see it now, it's like, oh wow, I remember that.
This was an engine by Caterpillar that was the only, one of two in the world at that point.
Wow.
And so they definitely wanted the whole process documented. And I think like on some of these industrial shoots, you're dealing with these rough guys, and so when they want a shot, and you're like you were saying, don't show. You don't want to show fear. You're like, I got my steel toes on. I'm gonna go ahead and climb. Every once in a while, I was in a couple of spots where it was like, not fun. But,
I know. I've been in some squirrely situations.
You do your job.
Well, yeah, and so I know this is obviously not pertaining to photography per se, but going back to the cranes, there were times where we were in plants in Lake Charles, and you have to go through these like short little orientations to get into these plants. And I remember being told, like, if you see a cloud, like, run the other way, go to your muster point or whatever have you, your shelter in place, all that stuff. And there were times where I've seen clouds of something, and I'm just like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this area at the moment. Like, I think I need to get out. Like, it brings me back. So
some of these guys, we'll go back when
yeah, sure.
We'll definitely talk about that next one. But some of these guys will usually you have a safety guy
right
who will guide you and tell you. And I'm tell that safety guy, like, I kind of know what I'm doing here. I kind of know where I need to step and not look. If there's a welder over here, I need to not look over there. But knowing some of that stuff, once again, it's just experience. It's just kind of knowing. But you always usually have a safety guide say, don't step right there.
Yeah, right.
Don't look over there while he's welding, stuff like that. But I carry my PPE in my car because, when I'm out on those locations. And to me, like, it also gives the confidence. Once again, same thing at a wedding, kind of like it gives the confidence to that client that, okay, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because you got the experience on doing it.
Yeah.
And that just comes with, doing it. If somebody wants to do this, like, it's great. But just, I would say, learn from another pro, shadow somebody, learn from them, and you'll learn a lot that way. But there's a lot that you just learn kind of
doing it. Yeah. All right. So onto this interesting thing here.
Okay. So that's a maternity shot, which are still really popular maternity studio shots. But this was a girl who had alopecia.
Okay.
And so she's bald because she has alopecia, and she was also a yoga instructor. So you have and I was looking. Actually, I found this whole shoot, and we actually did it last. It was kind of an afterthought, but just given. And so I called this one Mom Squared, and during this era, this was about 2006, 2007. I was engaged with the Acadiana Photographers Guild and the State Association, which is a little bit more into the portrait area.
Yeah.
And so my first year, they have a photo competition. And so my first year in entering some in photo competition, I entered this one and won like 4 of the big awards.
Nice.
And everybody was like, who's that guy winning these awards for that shot? But they still loved it anyway. But
yeah,
it's a bit of photographers can be a little bit competitive, but it's just kind of interesting. I had a good title for it, and it looks like a contortionist, but she's just
I'm glad you say it. I'm glad you said it was a maternity shot, not paternity, maternity. I corrected myself.
Paternity shots would be kind of weird.
Maternity shot. I know. Hey, I think they're real.
The dad belly.
Dad belly. But I'm glad you told me because I was like struggling to like process what I was seeing here. I'm like, but maternity makes sense.
Once again, makes it a striking kind of.
Yeah, it does. Thing. It does. Cool. All right.
So,
cool shot.
Moving in, I think about 2007, I shot for PASA for the year. Mm-hmm. I don't know, PASA it kind of had a comeback in the last couple of years. So this is Bo Diddley, and it's a double exposure in camera. So it's done completely in camera.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Very carefully.
So did you like have to move the camera? Yeah.
Some of the ones that I did for Sonny Landreth's album, I have a shot. If you have Sonny Landreth's Live in Lafayette album, I did one that kind of does the same thing, but I would just, do it in camera. And you can do it in Photoshop, but it doesn't really look quite the same.
Right.
It's not the same feel.
No, there's so many different things that are in the picture that if you try to replicate it in Photoshop, you would need to know all the different, like on the top of the guitar that's in focus, there's certain blurs that you wouldn't be able to replicate unless you knew to put that in there.
Right.
Really cool.
Food shots.
Oh man, that looks good.
This was at Townhouse, which is actually now a therapy place that I still do work for. But we did this was like a food shot and doing it outside, but still lighting it,
Yeah, God, man.
And a very atypical food shot, but it's one of the things that kind of goes along with commercial photography is the food, making it look appetizing.
I love the sharpness on the pepper flakes.
Jump back in there.
Goodness.
Put that in your mouth.
All right.
Okay, so this would be 2007. So in 2008, the beginning of 2008, I had a show at the ACA. And the theme was infrared photography, Louisiana in a different. It's called Louisiana in a Different Light. I was in the side gallery, and this was actually the featured image on the promotions and stuff. So I have a camera that, once again, kind of me dabbling in stuff that's just different. I have a digital camera that's converted to infrared.
Really, that's cool.
And then you're viewing it in a different light. So you're viewing it and you're seeing stuff how maybe even a bug would see it, or you're viewing only that infrared spectrum.
Yeah.
And so that's what the black and white, and it gives a really like striking black and white image. And nowadays, some of the images that I had in the show were done on film, on infrared film, which actually discontinued about the same time. And now it's kind of coming back again. There's one company still making it, but it just gives, because the foliage, you're looking through the atmospheric haze, and so the sky goes real black, and it just gives a different kind of feel. And
yeah,
so we did a whole show on that.
It would not have made sense. Like, it would not have been the same if you took a photo, the same frame, and in color, and then converted it to black and white. Like, there's no way that this would look the same. It would imitate, but it's totally wild. Like, there's some parts in here that like are kind of confusing to the eye at first. Like, immediately when you first
snow, everybody's like, oh, it's snow.
right
It's
when
not.
you first see it, you're like, oh, it's a black and white image, but like it is, but it's not. Like, it's very different. And like looking through the suns, where the sun's rays are going through parts of the trees, like I do not think that those, I'm guessing pine needles would look the same.
Yeah, it's got a glow.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've done actually since this show really is I've photographed a lot of Louisiana graveyards.
Okay.
And so my future project, fine art project, I have some actually that I have.
Oh, you're a ghost hunter?
Kind of. What you think, like, okay, maybe I'll see something, but I haven't. But I've been around and traveling for other work. I'll bring my infrared converted camera and shoot these Louisiana graveyards in infrared. So it also has this feel like, their tombstones are still white, but also you see the black sky and the foliage and stuff. It's got a really striking thing. So I've been almost all over the entire state. It's also kind of interesting to see the graveyards of the state.
Yeah,
so,
some old ones.
Another buddy of mine from New Orleans does kind of the same. He's doing a lot of infrared, and we chatted back and forth on doing graveyards, and we just both kind of loved it. And so one day there will be maybe a book or something. I don't know. Nice. Hopefully.
Okay.
So if anybody out there wants to see some of those, I have some still.
Another wedding.
Back into the wedding stuff. So I guess this is about 2008-ish. So 2008 was probably my biggest wedding year. I believe, if I remember correctly, I did 36 weddings in 2008, which I don't know if I could do these days. This was a great bride. Her dress was amazing, probably out of style at this point. But if you go to the next image, this was one that I really ended up liking. Once again, it's just got a striking feel to it. It's got a different feel to it. It's a shame because that bride was so gorgeous that she's only the almost a silhouette in the image. But this was just a cool, once again, one of those that like you're seeing it in the viewfinder, or you're seeing it right after it's shot, and you're like, that's it. So this ended up going to competition too.
Nice.
I don't think it did as well, but I like it.
Yeah.
I still have it in my studio. Getting into the technical studio kind of almost product. I think this was actually a product shot. But getting into that technical photography realm of, anyway, it's kind of industrial.
The colors, also, like, did you have to? Are those like?
So all this is in camera.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So the colors are very
no photoshopping
vibrant.
on that photo.
Yeah, I would think that there would be, but
I'll tell you the secret after we get off.
Okay, cool. All right, headshot.
So getting into the headshot and like personality and doing those in a different way around that era, I'm kind of getting more into that. And so the shoots are real estate, and just doing it on a different kind of rustic, more looking thing. But I actually still prefer to just do almost a standard kind of look. But once again, lighting, making people look good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of where that is.
Nice, looks good.
This is in the wedding era. I think this is also
downtown.
2008 downtown. And so this couple was a fun couple, and they were like, when we got near the end of the session, we were by the fountain. They're like, I want to get in the fountain. We got some extra clothes in the car. Can we go? I was like, yeah. So doing something like
that's always fun to do. And I love like still shots of water.
Yeah.
And
once again, like making sure your shutter speed is at that era, and doing tests before, and not something that's not going to happen on an automatic setting.
I know you got to be real careful with the shutter speed, because like
there are to look flowy but also still, and
like
there's a certain shutter speed
and like sometimes if you take like photos of like rivers, like if your shutter speed is just a little bit open long enough, you get that that feel like it's almost like the water has like this
the smoky.
the smoky haze.
It's a long exposure.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I know on digital now you'll have to knock the ISO even lower to kind of get to the base ISO to get even that long thing.
Yeah, God,
because it's still too fast now.
See, now I don't think honestly, I haven't even tried to do that, but I don't even know if my iPhone would be able to even do that.
You can't do it on iPhone.
I'd be curious to try though.
They're starting to integrate some of that stuff. This jumps a little bit in time here, so we're probably about 2000.
That's not Joe Rogan, is it?
No, maybe.
Or Stone Cold.
This is a local MMA thing.
Okay, got it.
So I got the opportunity to go shoot the local MMA, and once again, like just a striking image. And once again, one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody out there has sat on the ringside where the photographers sit.
No, man, I bet you it's rough.
You get a little. You get a little stuff on you. I wish I had that glass.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's body fluid.
Yeah.
All right.
So getting into kind of the portrait era fashion, this would be probably 2010. Well, once again, we can say here, I actually moved. My first location was where the backside of Dat Dog was.
Yep.
And that got hit by Hurricane Rita. One of the only buildings in Lafayette, as far as I know, that really got significant damage from Hurricane Rita. And so I had to move real quick. And so I moved on Clinton Street, which is now Basin Arts.
Yep.
I was upstairs in there, and it actually wasn't really prepared for a photo studio. But strangely, I kind of knew the building and was in the upstairs, and we kind of fitted it and moved stuff out just to be. I really do like that space. I ended up sharing it with another photographer, but it was just a big warehouse space, you know, and these big. We painted it and did stuff to it, but it actually has windows now. It didn't have windows, which is fine with me. I'd rather not have windows.
I know, especially with photography, you create your own light.
Create your own light, yeah, for studio stuff.
I almost wish I didn't have a window in here, but like whatever. Oh yeah, cool shot though. Yeah. From the bride from earlier, yeah.
Let's see. I shouldn't have put that twice, but she's
okay.
Cool. Okay, so back into the industrial side. Once again, just kind of showing what the process is.
And then I see what is that, a vignette? A slight
that's
vignette?
Kind of one of my little trademarks in some ways, where I'll focus in and darken the edges a bit. That's kind of one of my things that I do.
Yeah. I used to
generally, I kind of do it in most of mine. I think it brings the viewer to where I want them to view.
I used to do a lot of vignettes whenever I had my DSLR, and I was learning how to quote unquote develop in Photoshop, because there's like, I Photoshopped this image or I developed this image in Photoshop. It's two different mindsets. Yeah. So I got into learning how to use like brushes and overlays and different things to get vignettes and all that good stuff. But
I think this is like 2000. I don't know when that one is. Maybe 2011 or so.
Okay.
That was back in the Okay. So in the wedding era, this is probably 2013, maybe earlier than that. No, actually about. Yeah, I think so. 2012.
Okay.
2013.
Nice.
Once again, fun story. This bride was just adventurous, and she we were driving, and she's like, "Oh, look, those sunflowers!" There were wild sunflowers on the side, and it was like we had to trample through a bunch of
weeds and grass,
and so you don't see all the weeds and grass, but they're there.
They're there, but great shot.
And she's lit, and so that became a promotional.
Nice.
Yeah. Once again, kind of getting like, this kind of looks like where we are right now. A Radiocaster guy, a friend of mine, and one of those that just kind of works. It just kind of always become a promotional photo because I'm lighting him, on the other side of the window, but very narrow area,
Yeah, that looks good. All right.
So getting into this was for the chamber guide. I don't know. I don't think they do it anymore.
I haven't seen anything.
They used to do a yearly guide that would feature a lot of industries, and so we would show people in their work environment. And so here's a real estate contractor. I think he's a real estate guy, but selling spec homes, and just getting him out there, but also lighting him, making him look good in the environment.
Okay. Nice.
This one,
more food.
People might have seen this one. So this is for rice cook. There's a slow cooker meals, and there's There's a rice cooker mills that a lot of people see around here. This is this cover of the slow cooker mills, and that's why there's space on the top and bottom, because it's for the cover of the book.
Oh, cool.
So you might see that when I'll see. It's fun to see some of your images. I see it nowadays. I see a lot of my images on billboards when people are in their headshots when when I'm driving by.
Well, that's cool. That's gotta be neat to see your work.
Yeah, to see your work out is fun, especially like in bookstores and stuff like that. How are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing good.
Okay,
good. An hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Let's keep going, and we'll roll through. So some of the stuff we're moving into more today. So some of the stuff that I've actually been doing recently is Mardi Gras balls, and so this is the crew of Iberian, and we're kind of running into that little bit more traditional style that they would want.
Yep.
But still knowing how to do that and knowing how to get those shots and working with those personalities and working with kind of logistics of having a whole bunch of 100 people waiting for you, kind of herding them through and still making it look good.
All right. Oh,
Mardi Gras, that's another one from this past year. So that's Xanadu.
I like the sparks or flying in the back.
Those are one of my favorites from that. Into the industrial stuff that I'm doing these days, shooting some rigs and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, more rigs. Up there, once again, having the proper PPE.
Yeah, so you got to watch them change out some pipes?
Yeah, well, they're dropping. I think they're dropping pipe right there. But yeah, I'm up there with them. They some of the I go to a bunch for this company, and the guy kind of knows that I know where to be and not to be, and because those guys, the workers, are not necessarily going to tell me.
Oh no, because these guys they're
just on their job,
like. Because I don't know if this is an appropriate term for these guys anymore. It might be roughnecks. So
I guess it's still
essentially when you're a roughneck, at least from my experience in the crane technician apprentice era of my life,
I do not envy those guys.
Oh no. But like at that level, all you know is the job that you have in front of you. There's people that'll come up. There's safety men. There's company men. You don't know who's coming up behind you. So you just at that level of the company, you just assume. And I'm speaking from experience of being a crane technician apprentice.
Up there, they know where
you just assume that if somebody's nearby and they're in that area where you're at, that they know what they got to do and how they're supposed to be and where they got to be and
you can see all the shot. But there's a big old pipe coming behind me. And then once again into the headshots that I'm doing a lot of these days. I do a lot of business headshots, a lot of like on location and in studio.
Yeah.
Just given the personalities. And there's a lot of industries that still use them for until AI takes that over.
You know what? Dude, you need to be the person. I don't know what you got to do to do this, but I've seen it too many times where professionals, I'm talking about old head professionals, use the same headshot from 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, everybody kind of wants to look how they looked 5, 10 years ago.
I know.
But I think you should have. I say 5 years. I usually say 2.5 years for professionals that I shoot a lot. I was like, because there's been some. I've noticed one of them. I don't know if you've never met Nanette Hedgie.
Sounds familiar.
I've photographed her actually early. I found one of her from 20 years ago, and I'm still shooting her. So it's fun to have those clients and kind of see, and it's funny, she still looks great.
Yeah.
So, but I say you want to have an updated one. Like you'll have a beard, especially guys look older. Women still they change their hair,
Yeah.
You want to have one you want that person on your card or on your website to be the person
that you meet. Yeah, and so, for example, with me being in Leadership Lafayette, there was a couple of people. We would get our itinerary for that day, and then we have all the headshots of people that were coming to speak. And there were a couple of people, and one of them I'll mention outright. Well, because he seems to be the guy that likes to mention things outright because he's done it. But Conrad Como.
Oh, really?
Our outgoing tax assessor.
He's all next year. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, he's still in there for next year. It's like a transitional
weird thing.
But his headshot
is old.
His headshot is a young version of him.
Conrad, if you're listening, you need to come.
Yeah, you need an updated headshot, bro.
He's literally next door to me now.
Good. So there you go.
So I'm in my third location now downtown, so I'm on Vermilion. So that new tax assessor offers that they're still in remodeling. That's where it's going to be.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell him, Ben said. No.
You need a new headshot, bro.
It's fun to go through and saw the pole, the power pole.
Yeah.
And to see like how many people need new ones, or like I noticed that there's quite a few that I did. And if I worked on a shot, it'll be in my memory. Nice. So I'll see like, Carly or somebody that I'll say, hey, that's I did that headshot, and or like tons of them, and I like to count like how many I did. Yeah. It was like one of the top 40 or something like that, and I was like, hey, I did like 3 of those headshots.
That's awesome.
I did the good ones.
Yeah, the ones that look good.
Hopefully. I think I'm getting close to the end. So some of the other stuff I've been doing lately is musicians, a lot of, and doing this in studio, but kind of making it look like it's at a perfect venue.
Nice.
And then food still. And this was
what is that, a lobster roll? I can't tell.
The shrimp roll at Flats.
Okay.
Have you had that yet?
No, I don't eat seafood, bro. Oh my god. I know. Look, trust me, it looks amazing. Well, you're making it look good.
Well, Flats is awesome, by the way. So
it is. I've had their burger. So the burgers, I mean, obviously their flagship product.
You guys, it's funny when they opened a new Mr. Blanchard and Mr. Cormier, and we went in there because I was photographing a niece of one of them, and went in there before, and I was like, a burger joint, another burger joint, and then I had the burger, and I'm like, oh,
it's different. Yeah,
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's super nice. Great. It's like really flat.
And this is for a new shot. This is for the current story that they did on them.
Oh, so
so once again, food shots can also go into editorial.
Yeah, it looks like good. That. I mean, in my mind, I'm eating it, even though I don't want seafood. I'm eating the picture.
That's what you're supposed to want. And then another recent in studio shot. I don't know if you know Malatina. She goes by Malatina. She's a performer, awesome performer. And so I'd actually been wanting to shoot her for a while, and ran into her, and we did a shoot. And that's one of the
colors again.
Yeah.
Very
striking. That's the one I was talking about. We did some film with. So if you look on her page, on actually some on the Zoom page, there's some of the stuff we did on film.
Nice. And we're back.
Okay.
All right.
So using color lights again. Okay.
So go ahead and.
I'm glad I was only small on camera.
All right. So
20 years in business has been. It's like you said. It's weird. It's because of the time that has passed on being. In business for that amount of time. There's ups and downs for sure. If anybody's starting a business and wants to know, like, there's going to be times where, I mean, COVID hit for me, like, well, I do some event photography, or am I going to be, and I did have some clients that kind of transitioned into not doing as much stuff, especially during, but then other stuff I picked back up. Like I did more media work at the time, more editorial work. So you just got to kind of stick with it. And that's why I say, to me, like, don't turn anything down. Like, do it. Even if you are not 100% sure about the client. So sometimes you might want to think about it, but do that client, because that'll snowball into another client and more clients.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've been. I have Google ads, and that is pretty much it.
You get a good bit of leads from that.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like mostly word of mouth.
Oh, word of mouth. Got it.
Or just seeing the work, and Google, like, if they'll pop in and see the website, make sure your work is good on there. I still love what I do. It takes a while. It's one of those things. It's like, what's the phrase? If you
love what
do something that you love, you won't.
You never work a day in your life. Yeah.
So I've been fortunate to be able to still do it, and to still do it for so many years, and to service and meet so many clients. And I came directly here from an event, and just knowing so many people around the room, like I was shooting, but I'm also like saying hi to people.
Yeah.
Trying to, like, you just end up meeting a lot of people, especially in some of the event and media type work. You're meeting 5-10 people every day. I
know.
So you get to know a lot of the people who kind of make Lafayette run a little bit. But it's also been interesting to be here and to see a lot of the people and know a lot of people like you, kind of coming around and doing these kinds of evolving media in some ways. I think I think you got a great niche with your promotions, and
I appreciate that
and stuff.
Yeah,
you've got I kind of jumped into that game of I share your stuff every once in a while. The second in Charles is coming here. That's what I'm.
Yeah.
I'm a vinyl collector, so that's kind of one of those.
I know. I saw the vinyls that they have over there, and a lot of people were sharing it from that point. I don't know if you know DJ Moon.
Yeah, I do.
So he shared it because he saw that they would have vinyls. I'm like,
they have vinyl and they have secondhand. Like I'm also a film buff, so there's not a lot of places really that you find secondhand movies and secondhand physical media.
Right.
I'm still weird. I'm still a physical media guy. I do stream some stuff sometimes, but I want it. If I want to see something, if it's a favorite, I want to have it available.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that some of the streaming services, some of the services I've seen lately where they'll have something and it'll go away, and so you're like, I don't need to own that movie. It's on Netflix.
Oh yeah, and then whenever it's not there, you're like, dang it. So
this hobby wise,
I'm not a physical media collector. However,
it can get weird.
Yes, I do. I do have a couple of physical media pieces that I've kept. Mm-hmm. I had a bunch of DVDs.
Yeah.
And there's 2 DVDs that I know for a fact that I did not throw out, or actually I didn't throw them out. I might have sold them to, there was a place that would buy these DVDs and like give you like literally cents on the dollar.
Buybacks.
Oh yeah, it was buybacks. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And I think
that's kind of what Second and Charles is very similar to them in some ways, but they also track like the value of some of this stuff because some of the stuff kind of goes out of print. Yeah. There's some Blu-rays that are out of print that are worth $100.
Well,
which is weird.
The 2 that I kept were Waterboy. You laugh. Yeah,
it's kind of about UL, right?
It's a classic. It is pretty much about UL, but it's like apparently filmed in like Florida.
Yeah.
But it's a Louisiana based. Anyways, weird.
Yeah, and then colors are Florida.
And then the other movie is also kind of in the same vein, Joe Dirt.
God,
I love Joe Dirt.
Goofy comedies.
I love that goofy, raunchy style of comedy, and you don't really get that style of comedy anymore today. It's different. Like you get hints of it, but like, for example, Step Brothers. That's over 10 years old. That type of comedy, that type of humor, it's hard to sometimes replicate, and it can almost be forced. My wife, she's big on...
It's a big era of the early 2000s, and there was a lot of that.
Yeah. My wife, she despises... and if she's listening, she'll tell you. She despises remakes or...
Oh, really?
What do you call those? There's a fancier word for it. I guess a sequel, but
remakes.
But like for example,
bad sequels and bad remakes.
Sex and the City.
Yeah. Comebacks, sort of.
Yeah.
Sequels.
So they had Sex and the City. Yeah. She watches that, the original.
The sequels.
And then they came out with the sequel, the remake.
There's no Miranda. I mean, what are you gonna do? Not Miranda. The
other. It was Samantha.
Samantha.
Yeah.
How are you gonna have that?
And Samantha didn't want to come on.
How are you gonna have
She was like, I don't want to do it. I know, but so it was already looking a little iffy there. But so what happens is, especially if you have like a movie or a show that was from a decade or two ago, try to remake it for current times, you have people that do not like what's going on right now in the political or the social climate. So, for example, what Sex and the City tried to push was the whole gender identity kind of thing
at the moment.
Yeah.
There's the reverse of that also is some of the comedy from the 90s. Like, it doesn't offend me, but I rewatched some Kevin Smith movies recently, and
Kevin Smith, is that Paul Blart?
No. Kevin Smith was like Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy, and some of that did not age very, very well, especially Chasing Amy, which I still think is a good movie.
I think Paul Blart was Kevin James. I think. Sorry, I was getting them mixed up.
Yeah. The Kevin Smith was known for sort of that raunchy, but like very dialogue-driven, movies, and so some of it like did not age well. I still think it's kind of funny, but you're talking it 30 years now, so you think of what was funny 30 years ago. I mean, but Bugs Bunny will always be funny. Oh yeah, Bugs Bunny will always funny. And then you have the guy who's hunting the pesky rabbit. Yes. Yeah. But but having those physical media and having also, which I encourage people if they get, which is getting rarer and rarer, to buy physical prints. People buy them, put them on their wall, but even buy them smaller ones to put in there, especially on the portrait sessions. But having that physical copy, digital is great, but hard drives die. some of the stuff that we'll go to now along the line. I get a request every once in a while to like, hey, my dad died. Do you have that image from him at my wedding? And so sometimes I do usually, but once again, that stuff, I do have a pretty good archive, but I usually tell people about 5 years because I do keep copies, but stuff dies. Hard drives die, Cloud has been more successful at that. But once again, coming full circle, we were talking about, it's that 1 second of that one moment that you're photographing somebody or a portrait, even if it's a portrait session, it's how that person looked at that time. It's what that person was doing at that time, that job that person had at that time. So to keep that, I've noticed from my life that, when those people are gone or that situation's gone, we got a little emotional going through a bunch of the stuff from 20 years. Cause like I've had, people who aren't with us anymore, and, those images and those moments and stuff mean so much more. And so having that physical copy or making sure that you have that, because some of that stuff is going to change and the world's going to change. So that's kind of what I think about in photography, that I'm capturing those, I used to tell people when I was doing a lot of weddings, it was like, they were looking at, one of my selling points for the wedding was that if your house is on fire, what are you going to go get? What are you going to grab? If you have 5 seconds to get out of your house, what are you grabbing? Photo albums.
Memories, anything that...
Memories and photo albums, hard drives now. Yeah. But so make that worth it, make sure that those types of images that are worth saving, that you have and that you'll have. I know a lot of people lost stuff in Katrina, and so, a lot of photo albums and stuff like that because they couldn't get them, or they weren't at home, or there was a whole exhibit of those photos. So those just become as the further we go out from that time, or, I'm saying 20 years, the further we go out, the more those become important.
Man, you're gonna. It's hitting kind of the feels area, because you think about photos from 20, 30 years ago. If for most people, and especially our age range, it's mostly 10, 20 years ago that you can really think to keep a hold of. What would happen? Like, especially you talk about hard drives, like. There's some things I'll keep on the raw hard drive on my computer, but like there's things that I have in Dropbox or Google Drive, and those are redundant systems. I've had stuff in Dropbox for over 15 years. That long? Yeah, I've had Dropbox since like 2010, or maybe 2009. So, and I still have my original. Those from
it's hard to go back through and delete some of that, because you're like, okay, what's in there?
Yeah, like I keep it because like that was a time and place in my life. Like whether it was a file or a logo that I did, I'm like, I keep it.
I'm weird about keeping my old stuff. I have all my negatives and and that's what I got a little weird about whenever we went digital, because it's like I don't have a physical thing that I'm keeping. I have a hard drive, so
I know
I still have theoretically almost everything I've ever shot. Back to 30 years ago, and I pulled out my first roll I ever shot and looked back at that, and it was on film, so it still looked great.
Yeah, and so like even VHS. So like when you think about physical media, like I know there's like a lifespan on some of this stuff.
Of that, especially the magnetic stuff.
Yeah, but like we have home movies that are on VHS. I don't know if my mom ever transferred them over to DVDs or anything like that. But now, I mean, you might as well try to convert those to files that you can put into a cloud that stays there forever.
Definitely do that.
Yeah. It's something to think about. So yeah,
I had a little garage band, and I had found the old video, and it was 30 years this year.
Oh wow!
And it was a buddy of mine who's not with us anymore.
Wow.
That we have, and I brought that video, and being able to have that video, his son was pretty young when he passed, and so I went and I ended up being able to send it. It was like across country, but I'd put him on YouTube and stuff, and his mom showed him, and he was like, "Where? I've never seen this. Like, where did this come from?" But he's like, well, your dad's friend had this, and it was great because he was in a garage. He was starting a garage band. And so it was definitely some feels, of watching his little garage band, which is good, by the way.
Yeah. You mentioned YouTube. I mean, and we're already at a point to where we're almost 20 years since YouTube started.
Right.
In 2006.
Sometimes I'll be watching a video and it was like uploaded 15 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
and you're like, dang. And so we're going to get to a point to where even YouTube is going to be one of those places, and thankfully it's owned by Google, who is a, so to speak, rock solid company. You would think so. But
hi, Google. How you doing?
But it's YouTube is becoming an archive of creators that some of them are still here, some of them are not.
Right.
That created these timeless, viral memes type videos. And like, I don't know if Numa, Maya he, Maya who.
How old is that now?
It's old. It was like from the very first days of YouTube. Or like, I'm a snake, I'm a slippery little snake. Like, there's some old ones, and they're still on YouTube because that's where they were uploaded to initially. Yeah. And so it's almost like a time capsule.
Does what's his name? The dance guy. I still have the top video. It was like 1 billion views or something.
Oh God.
But it's all 10 years old now.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
I'm talking about the one that was a huge craze.
Yeah, God.
Psy.
Oh, yeah, Psy from Korea, yeah. Yeah, that one. And then you have all the Harlem Shakes.
I did one.
You did one?
I videoed one for DJ Digital.
Oh, nice.
We did one, and I got to meet Poopa Broussard
another guy, dude.
Out of another viral. I got to meet him out of costume, and you would not know him.
Oh, yeah, because he probably doesn't have the little chiclet teeth and anything like that.
He was a funny guy. When he gets in character, it was great. And we had Sharon Moss. We did the Lafayette one, which was like they had done, and they did it at Park Sans Souci, and I helped digital video it.
Nice.
It was fun.
Man, we're almost at an hour and 45
cool.
minutes.
Oh, man, that's plenty.
Yeah,
I don't want to top some of your more recent ones that were more controversial.
No, I know Priscilla was almost 2 hours.
2 hours. I watched that whole thing.
Yeah, but no, it was good having you on, looking at some of these pictures.
And it's good to come back once again. 5 years ago, if I go look at that video, I know I'm definitely less gray.
Yeah, you're probably a little less gray. And I think at that time, I want to say I remember bringing you on because you ride bikes, right? You ride bike, yeah. And we were talking about bike paths.
On Bike Lafayette. Board now. So
see, we were talking about a lot about bikes and
right
not having enough bike lanes and all that good stuff. We won't talk about that right now.
That's another topic. I'll be back next year.
Yeah, sure. Let's revisit that. But
congratulations to two of our board members, Andre and Matt, are being honored by the Current for their work on
that's awesome
for Bike Lafayette. I still ride a lot. Although the last 2 weeks my bike's been in the shop, but it's still. I'm still out there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because you see some stuff when you ride.
You do. You see a lot. When you're a pedestrian on a street or around town, you see you're not going by as fast.
Right.
You're on the ground, but you get to know your town really well.
Yeah, and where you can bike and where you can't.
Where it's a good idea to bike and where it's a bad idea to bike.
Johnston Street is tough.
It's tough, but it's not the worst.
It's not the worst, but yeah.
I've seen people biking and doing stuff like doing pedestrians in areas where I'm like, if you don't know, you shouldn't be there because you really shouldn't be there.
And there's some people I've seen on the road.
And hopefully we can, did you have Narika Ross on? She Eureka Ross. Mm-mm. She's a pedestrian advocate.
I haven't.
And keeps track of like, we lose a lot of people in Lafayette because of pedestrian fatalities, which we don't talk about enough, which is part of what I'm kind of.
I mean, the throughway is rough.
The throughway is very rough. I've ran across. I don't bike it, but I've ran across it a couple of times, and I'm like, now I see why. Yeah, it's scary. And it's hard for them to do anything with it because it might be transitioning into I-49. Yeah, which is one of the sticking points that I have. But
is that even going to happen?
Well, no. I mean, I think it will, but like
when?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not going to be in our lifetime when they really start on it. So in that time, like how many people do we lose there?
I know.
Can we do something in between? that will keep people from dying. Like literally, you think how much money, and this is the last thing about biking, but how much money do we spend on safety, public safety in Lafayette for the sheriffs and the city police? I mean, go look at the budget for those two, and those are to stop violent crime. Well, maybe one of their main focus is stop murders and violent crime. Well, how many people get hurt? How much money do we spend on that? So when you say, oh, we got to spend a little bit of money on that on a bike lane, it's keeping somebody from dying. It's keeping people. You spend a lot of money on other safety. Otherwise, we definitely should have and it makes a better community. It makes people want to live here.
Yeah.
I was one of the mayor president debates, and I watched Josh Gauthier talk about that. Initially, it was one of those things where he wasn't really interested in kind of, and that he had evolved on recreation and public and engaging and making a place people actually want to live. So it was like one of the things they actually evolved on. And so that's good to hear that, a lot of our community leaders are knowing what the problem is. It takes a lot of work to get it, but definitely I still love Lafayette. I'm still here, and I will be as long as I can. And I like working here. It's one of those things I like, having that established business here.
You think you'll be another 20 years?
I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, okay. I would hope so.
Yeah.
And at time it starts accelerating. How old are you?
37.
So yeah, I'm 48. So the older you get, the faster time goes by.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably just starting to get a feel of that.
Yes.
But I'll blink and a year goes by, and then COVID made everything even weirder.
Dude, it's been 4 years since COVID, or it'll be 4 years in March.
It'll be in March, yeah.
Like when did it happen? Like,
where's this 4 years?
Like, it's wild. And so many things have changed in just those 4 years. The economy is I remember 2019 prices of things in 2019 that I was complaining about. I would kill to go back to those prices. Like, give me that again. Like, not even talking about gas, just food. Food is outrageous. Things have gone up so much, and it's like that. Like, certain things have stayed stable.
Like I kind of said about COVID, everything that we were having problems with at the time, everything that was a challenge at the time, it made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that in some ways you could find some things that were good about it, that, people helping each other, people learning how to, it's hard to get into how many different things change, but I think it definitely, some of the things that changed during it never are going to come back.
Right.
I noticed there's a lot about, and being in a physical location. That's not something that's going to change about my job. I have to be there. But I know a lot of people they're working online anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they need to go to an office?
Remote work has become
people want it now.
They wanted it before, but it was like, your employers are like, we'll explore it. Yeah. Oh no, they were forced to. And now it's like, okay, we know we can.
I can't. I have to bring a physical camera to wherever.
I mean, I have to go take pictures of construction sites and somebody has to do it.
You gotta get your PPE right.
Yeah,
man.
right.
Get your hard hat.
Yeah, I do have to put that on sometimes.
You got your steel toes.
I don't have steel toes. I have hey dudes. I got soft toed shoes.
You got to watch out if they're swinging some stuff. Right? Yeah. I always wear an orange vest also because I'm moving around the site. Yeah. So I'm moving more than some of the workers are. The workers are kind of in that one area. So I'll wear one so they know where I'm at.
I try my best not to go into the actual site, but sometimes it's like I get on the dirt a little bit and I'll use the very little zoom that I have on my camera. I'll get in and I'll try to get it. But also I have a drone, and so I'll fly my drone into a spot that I'm like not comfortable getting into. I'm like, boop, just grab it and take off.
A lot of times the drone shots at 50 feet are fine.
Oh yeah.
That's usually where those sites need. And a lot of what I started noticing with drone stuff, like I'm wondering if construction has kind of changed, because not all stuff looks good.
Right.
Like we're meant to see a building from
I know.
From 5 feet.
The roof is not pretty.
The roof is usually not pretty.
So whenever I take photos of buildings, and if it's under construction, I don't worry about it too much. But like if I'm trying to get a good nice, pretty shot of the building, I try to hide that roof because nobody wants to see the air conditioning units.
There's some nice roofs. But
some of them, but like most of them are like, get behind the threshold there.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. Well, cool, Travis, man.
Thank you, man.
I loved having you on.
Good.
Always.
Great talking to you all kind of stuff, especially.
I know, because you and we have very similar things. Yeah. So
love the work that you do, keeping up. I think people use your page as one of the excitement, the points of debate whether or not.
Yeah, especially if my links ever get shared on
Lafayette.
But if it ever gets shared on Reddit, I gotta be careful on Reddit. Some people are brutal on Reddit, and I'm like, dude, like, and I have to.
People being anonymous, and I've noticed that Facebook has had. I don't know if they can do it on pages, but I know that groups they can be anonymous now. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I was like, oh, that's a terrible idea.
It's
terrible idea.
And people say things that they normally would never say to your face, and you're like, so that whenever I see a link on Reddit. And people are criticizing. Let's say they're criticizing me, which is rare, but it has happened, especially with Priscilla. And whenever I interviewed her, and they talked about it on Reddit, and they were like, "Who is this guy? He's so unprepared." Blah blah blah. I was as prepared as I could be for the short window of time that I had to get her on. Yeah. She qualified literally the week before. Yeah. Got her on.
I think there were some working for a little bit of media. I think there were. Maybe she felt safe coming here and she didn't, want to go in other media. But maybe. I think that was the curious thing to a lot of people was that did you just call her?
I messaged her on Facebook. She follows the page and I've seen her liking the stuff for about a year before she ran.
Well, some of your stuff was used in court.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the court case.
Dude, that's so funny. Like the podcast part?
Yeah.
What?
There was quite a few things questions and stuff that or answers that were used.
Whoa.
Yeah. There was, I had photographed her coming in and out for media and then it was just one of the more interesting things in Lafayette that happened at that moment. And so I went sitting through the court case and it was like, it was interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, in the court, there were a lot of the other judges and stuff that want to I mean, how often does somebody get kicked off the ballot?
I know,
never, very rarely.
And but her situation was so weird. She came in here guns blazing, trying to do whatever she was trying to do, and she did. I think she achieved probably what she was trying to achieve is get attention, whether that be good attention or bad attention. She got attention. She made a lot of people find out who she is, whether that be good or bad.
Sure.
Yeah. That's the most that I could say about that.
Well, what's the thing that you end up engaging in, especially if you're kind of sort of media in a way, that you end up learning more about the behind the scenes in some way. Mm-hmm. Once who the good players and who are the people with lesser intentions are in our community.
Yeah.
And so it's hard sometimes to balance that with also being a good citizen and being a good. I think though that everybody should, as much as they can, be engaged with their community and be engaged with their government and at least know what's going on.
Yeah,
because we like working in some of the stuff that I do with Louisiana currently, like the Current and Louisiana Illuminator, you get out there and you end up knowing all the it's amazing to me how many people have never gone to sit through a whole Lafayette council meeting. And it's just, you'll learn so much about your government. I had a friend that was dealing with an issue and ended up going through and sitting and he's like, it's pretty interesting. I was like, yeah, it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the debate and the personalities and it's where
it's where the real work happens.
Real Lafayette happens.
Look, I learned in Leadership Lafayette
all the different
personalities.
Yeah. And some of them kind of weird.
Yeah. Leadership Lafayette. I learned you can go to the state capitol and actually sit in on these committees while all the hard work is happening. And I'm like, never thought in a million years that I could go on a weekday and actually be amongst all of the action. Mm-hmm. I would go on a Saturday with my wife and my little boy, go to the top, see off to the distance in the city. But it's quiet on the weekends because there's nothing happening. But on the weekdays, I didn't realize you can go onto the bottom floor and where the committee rooms are and sit in.
Weird about photographers though.
Well, I
had to get a whole go through some hoops to get photographs in there.
Well, I was just there to to kind of be a part of the whole thing with Leadership Lafayette. And it just what people don't realize, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is just how open government really is when you actually know that it's open and you can go sit and listen.
And a lot of people don't know how to navigate that too, especially when it's only when they come up with a problem, you know, when they end up having
when they have to figure it out.
And have to figure it out. I mean, you can know who's donating whose campaign. Louisiana is actually pretty good about having pretty much a lot of, and Lafayette actually was pretty transparent in a lot of ways with the checkbook and Justin Santani brought around. Huh. And you can go and find, it's really hard kind of to find stuff, but you can kind of walk in and find that information about where's this, who's paying for what, you know, what are we paying for?
Wow. Dude,
I'm not going to go any further than
I know. We look, there's so many holes that we can go into.
There's so many holes that we could go into that you could find a lot of money in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, like I said, it was good. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
It's past lunchtime.
Yes,
I am hungry.
Hungry time.
All right,
but everybody, thank y'all for viewing.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for the sponsors.
Thank you for our sponsors too. Yeah, Travis, thank you for that. And that'll be it, man. I'm hoping you have a great rest of your week. I was going to say weekend because normally I do these on Friday, but weekend's coming up, and I'm pretty sure you have a bunch of plans, so take it easy.
Well, 24-hour assistant project.
There you go.
Everybody come and engage in 24-hour assistant project. You've had Butch before?
Yeah, I've had Butch on, I think, once, and I need to get him on, again. But
that's this weekend, so engage. And actually, I would encourage people just to come to the event and see what
and where's it going to be?
It's going to be at ACA, 6 o'clock on Saturday. It's just to see what kind of good community projects. It's really one of those things in Lafayette where it's good people doing good things.
I love it. Well, cool, man. You. That is it. We'll do this again, I'm sure, on another time, and probably have a whole different topic.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one.